All right, we're gonna get started in a couple of minutes. I appreciate everybody that has gone to chat and said hello or what's good. Just pulling it up on my phone. Thank you, Carla, Gavin, Shad, Jakai, Ayat, Preston, Zakira, and everybody else that's went to chat and said hello. Not only is it the right thing to do, but it's also super important that we make sure chat is working, since I'm going to be dropping links and we're going to be participating in chat. So I see Quentin already going ahead and dropping his weird GIF that he made of himself. That's yeah, I appreciate that, Quentin. Go ahead, if you guys have not done so already, please go ahead and open up OneNote and go to the page that we were working on yesterday. I am copying and now dropping in chat a link. I see Gavin using the best GIF of all time. I appreciate that. He knows what's up. Go ahead, click on that link, go to Role of Media. That was the page that we had created yesterday. And then when you are ready, do what Gavin and Ayat and Julia and Kiki have already done. Go ahead and type open. Go ahead and let me know that you are ready for class to start. Sounds good. Yep, that's fine. If you need to leave and come back in, absolutely. Thank you guys for letting me know. Awesome. Appreciate you guys being patient. Quentin, I see your hand is up. How can I help you? Okay. Quentin, can you send me a personal message on Teams and with the issue, and then I will look for it. There's a chance that I might need to restore like a previous page or something. So if you send me a personal message, I will go back through and I'll make sure that I take care of it before I cross it off my to-do list. All right, thank you. Jakai, I just reposted. Oh, never mind. He's coming back in class right now. Jakai, do you see the link now in chat, or do you need me to repost it? Nice, awesome. Okay, I appreciate Natalie, Zakira, JL, Shad, Brooke, Jakai, and everyone else who has typed open in chat. There's a total of 20 of us in here. Remember, dropping things or saying things like open, or if you have a question mark, putting a question mark in chat. Those are some of those things that I really appreciate as a teacher because we're not in person. It helps me understand where we are at and what is a good use of our time. So I just want to say I recognize that and appreciate you guys. Quentin, your hand is up. How can I help you? Okay. That is all good. So right now I am going through and I am sharing out a slide. At the top it says role of individuals, and there's a mural of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. So if you cannot see this, you need to leave and then come back in, and it will then appear. So role of individuals. Kind of thinking back to the last couple of weeks, we've been learning about human rights, how there are things, certain rights, certain privileges that every person should have access to, regardless of where you are living at, whether you're living in Iowa or Nebraska, whether or not you're living in the United States or in Canada or Mexico. There are certain kind of guaranteed rights that we should all have. Yesterday, when we reviewed this, you guys talked about freedom of speech. I'm drawing a blank. Can you guys drop in chat? What were some of the other examples of rights that we talked about yesterday? So freedom of speech. What other? Excellent. Thank you, Jakai. Religious freedom. Let's see, we have religious freedom, we have the right to getting a job, the right to going to a doctor. So there's a bunch of things like right to education. So there's a bunch of different things that people should be guaranteed to have access to. And there's times where individuals come along, like Martin Luther King, like Malcolm X, who have a vision or an agenda of how people should go about in making sure that you are acquiring and getting access to these human rights. Martin Luther King was more peaceful, conciliatory, let's work hand in hand. Malcolm X sometimes was controversial because he would go through and he would use and he would say things that were almost more confrontational. But they both had and served their purpose. So individuals are important of gaining access to human rights. Governments are important to making sure people have access to human rights, whether or not they're punishing communities that are infringing on human rights, or they're rewarding them by offering skills and money and resources. And so by balancing both punishments and rewards, governments can encourage countries and other communities to do the right thing. Which brings us to what we started yesterday. What is the role of media when it comes to human rights? Yesterday, we had a great conversation where we talked about what's the purpose of media. We named some different types of media and kind of analyzed, like, what are they focusing on? And so I gathered the information that we had in our discussion and I organized it on this slide. So we figured out that the two main purposes of media are to gather the facts and help us interpret what is right and wrong, and sometimes even including different perspectives. There's organizations that are focused on covering incidents and issues that are national. And then there's also kind of local media outlets where really focus on what's happening in our community. Two thoughts that we have not finished that we'll probably touch on today is, what does it mean when it's like when people say fake news? What is that slur or what is that insult suggesting? And then also, why is it so important that we rely on the media? Before we get started today looking at our resources and videos and articles, I want us to figure out what is some of our background knowledge about what we're going to be looking at today. So I'm going to start off by saying today we are going to go through and we're going to talk about some stuff that are really serious and how do I say this? Something that's really serious and that is really personal to me, but also I know to a lot of you as well, based off our prior conversations and our writing. So there's times where we kind of are definitely joking in class and kind of taking things really lightly. And I just want to say now is not the time, especially when we're talking about individuals like George Floyd. So George Floyd was in the news last spring. What do you guys know? What do you know about George Floyd? So this, hold on a second. Sorry, let me admit. Thank you, Gavin. So what do you know about George Floyd? This would be something where you could go ahead and you can raise your hand. I will call on you to go ahead and unmute yourself. That way we're not talking over. If you know about what's going on, or if you'd like to have something to share, you can type it in chat. Also, if you don't know anything, that's okay too. I appreciate that feedback. Go ahead and drop a question mark. So I see I've got some people's hands up. Don't be afraid to use chat. Thank you, JL, for saying, I don't know. I appreciate that honesty. Gavin, your hand was up first. Once again, you don't need to copy any of this stuff down. I'm simply organizing our thoughts. Okay, Gavin, go ahead. Kiki, what would you like to add? Then Jakai. Kiki, go ahead.
He was killed by police officers for doing nothing wrong.
Jakai, did you want to add something?
No, it happened in
Kiki.
I don't remember who the other person was, or said last time I asked.
Okay.
I meant to say.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. Preston, what would you like to add? So, a couple of things there. I really appreciate it. 3 or 4 people share out, but I only had one person write, I don't know, in chat. And I want to shout out to JL. I appreciate that honesty and that bravery there. But part of like us going through and taking and making sure that we use chat as part of class is I go back through and I see who's responding. So I know Shad and Deontez and Hassan, and there's a bunch of other people. Make sure you're please talking in chat as well. Yeah, okay. So Ayat drops a new piece of information in there as well. Him and the police knew each other. So George Floyd was killed by a police officer that he knew for doing nothing wrong. I'm actually going to show us a picture. Let me pull it up here. This phrase it started really becoming popular and people started using it in protests, saying like, I can't breathe. What does that, like, what is that trying to get us to think about? Mm-hmm.
Well, he nearly died of suffocation.
Yeah.
He died of suffocation and kept repeating, I can't breathe to the officer. And his face was being pressured into the pavement.
Okay. Thank you, Preston, for typing that in chat. Yes. So George Floyd was, and I appreciate Jakai also sharing out. George Floyd was killed by a police officer that he knew for doing nothing. That he knew. George Floyd was not resisting arrest. He was lying there on the ground, and the police officer put his knee on George's neck and wouldn't move it. Even though he was saying,
Did they ever catch the police officers?
Yes, they did. I appreciate Renesia asking that. So for those people that couldn't hear, Renesia asked, did they catch the police officer? Does anyone know what happened to that police officer?
They were taken off from being police officers and sentenced to prison.
Let's look this up. So the person that killed George Floyd, so the guy's name was Derek Chauvin. So he definitely, I know that he got fired. Is Derek Chauvin in jail? But I don't think. Yeah, so it looks like his trial has not taken place yet. So he got charged with a crime, but he hasn't, like, he's not currently in jail. So the police officer was fired and is going to face trial. And so if he's found guilty, then there are the consequences. And just kind of that cursory research that I did on Google, which, you know, if we were going to go and like write a paper and have an in-depth discussion, we'd go back and read some of those articles. But he might get jail time. He might get, I don't know if there's the death penalty in Minnesota. But this incident with George Floyd, it was really a catalyst, which is a word that you typically hear in high school. Do you guys know what the word catalyst means? Okay. Ayat, I appreciate you saying, you appreciate you typing that in chat. So Ayat, thank you also, Preston, for saying no. Ayat says George Floyd caught the cops called him because he was using fake money, but he wasn't arresting. So it was killed by a police officer that he knew. So he was doing something that he shouldn't have been, George Floyd. But like that doesn't necessarily mean what happened to him like aligned, right? Like that's not like, for example, like I don't know, if you breathe too loudly in class, I'm not going to make you go and do 100 push-ups. Like that, those don't correspond, especially when you talk about someone dying. But I do appreciate you bringing that up, Pat. Gavin went ahead and copied and pasted the definition from Catalyst and dropped it in chat.